Hey guys, welcome back to my podcast, Simply You. I am Kate Contreras, and I have someone with us today whom I actually met at the Rachel Hollis business conference. And it was so random that we didn't know each other, and we sat, and you live, tell me where you live, Kelsey.
Washington State.
Washington State. Okay, so see, I didn't even know that. So she was in front of me, and I was behind her, and Rachel said, okay, find a partner. And she turned around and we both were like, hey, you want to be partners? And it was like, perfect. And we're both into health and fitness. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this was like a God moment to put us together. So I am super excited to have Kelsey join us. And again, we just met each other there and kind of stay in contact here and there on social media. And you're such an inspiration. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself and kind of give us a little just general background, and then we'll like really dive in.
Okay, perfect. So my name's Kelsey Farias. I am from Wenatchee, Washington. So the furthest corner up here in the Pacific Northwest. I am 32 as of yesterday, and I have 2 boys, and I'm married, have lots of fur babies, and I run my own business. It started as Kelsey Teddy Fitness and has now evolved into Empowered Through Fitness. So I am the CEO and coach there for Empowered Through Fitness and run that business. I'm starting a self-development conference business. Actually, I will have my first conference this October. So that's pretty exciting. That's the next kind of step for me, my next business adventure. But we're just kind of like chugging along, figuring out business, working in the health and fitness world, and like lots of business ideas to come, but, and I'm sure you understand that. I feel like, and actually I should say too, we have our own podcast. My husband and I
was going to make sure that you.
Yeah, that's also kind of important. Because if you're listening to a podcast, you're a podcast listener, and I should probably introduce my podcast. So we also have, it's called Self-Love Sit Downs. Mm-hmm. And we're on any major, podcast platform. And our podcast is all around health, fitness, mindset, relationship. We have a little bit of finance sprinkled in there, but a lot of self-development, mindset work, and then quite a bit of health and fitness too, just because that obviously is like a large part of my following and what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so is your husband involved in your business at all besides the podcast?
He has not been up to this point. He is transitioning into coaching. He has a couple clients currently that he's coaching. And so he will come on as an additional coach underneath me. Probably towards the end of this year, maybe next year. And he'll just do it part-time on the side because he is a firefighter. So he does have a full-time job, but this is also his passion as well. And so he hasn't really been a part of it up to this point yet. As far as like coaching, I mean, he's like my IT support. He is like everything in between my support, but like within the business, he hasn't really done like any of that kind of stuff, but he is transitioning into it. So.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm trying to get my husband too. And now that he graduated college, and he was working and doing school. And now that he doesn't, I'm like, okay, I need you to be my IT. I need you to be he's trying to get me to do Teams instead of Zoom and trying to sell me on why I want to do that and everything. I'm like, okay, this is what I need you for. You don't need to do any of that stuff. He, likes his job that he does and stuff, but I'm like, I need you to be that support in any way. I need that. All facets.
Yeah. It's so nice. And it's so hard, man. Running a business is like a different beast, and you're just kind of like failing forward, figuring things out as you go. I honestly could not have done it without him up to this point, even though he hasn't like had his hands, super involved in the business. Like I go to him with decisions, and he's my support system, because there was definitely a couple times where I thought like, okay, maybe I should close this business. You just kind of get the imposter syndrome and all the things. And he was like, no, No. So he's definitely a big driver in the business.
Awesome.
But I'm excited for him to get more involved in it just because it is naturally his passion as well. And so I think he'll be a fabulous coach. And I feel like he's going to coach more like our men's team.
Right.
And so I'm excited to be able to, speak to the men out there that are looking to get coached, just because myself and Coach Brittany, who works with me, we definitely, we're more female
Right.
focused. And so I think it'll be nice for him to be able to speak to the men out there looking for coaching.
hmm Yeah, I think that's awesome. I at one point was looking to my husband to kind of help out with that too. And he's like, I thought about it way back when, but he's like, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I mean,
have a passion for it.
it's not his passion. I mean, we both are, into health and fitness, and it's definitely like a part of our family, kind of world and dynamic, how we, raise the kids with,
Yeah.
exercise, but in a fun way, and not just like, okay, now we're going to do exercises and we need to,
Yeah.
this and that. It's like, hey, let's go take a walk, which my kids love. And we're going to do
Yeah.
squats along the way. We're going to do reverse lunges and do 5 of them. And they think it's so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So we try to incorporate, as much kind of health and fitness in such a positive, body positive way in how
Yeah.
we word things. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay, so I want to know, when did you first start Kelsey Teddy business? And like part-time, how it turned into full-time, like give me that kind of like timeline rundown.
Yeah. So I actually started Kelsey Teddy Fitness in 2019. It started very much so as just a side hustle. I was just looking for something that I was passionate about. I was watching Armando kind of dive into firefighting, and he was,
And Armando's your
chasing
husband,
his,
just for our
yeah,
listeners.
Armando is my husband. I was watching him kind of dive into his dream and passion of becoming a firefighter. And that was, man, that could be like a whole episode in itself. But I was watching him go through this process and watching him, like, for those that are unaware, getting into firefighting is very difficult, very, very difficult. Just as an example, Seattle, which most people know of in Washington State,
Uh-huh.
Seattle, Washington, he applied for a department there, and there were over 1,000 applicants for 50 positions. And
Yeah,
you're
my
up against
cousin did
all
the
of,
same thing,
yeah,
now going in a different direction because of it. So
yeah. It's
yeah.
very hard. It's just it's tough. And so watching him go through that process and, work so hard and get all these certifications and do all of these things to become qualified and still miss out on positions, just watching him go through that of trying and trying and then getting denied and continuing to show up. And, it was just like truly watching somebody, that whole quote where it says, get knocked down 7 times, get back up 8 or whatever. That's what I was watching. And watching him, I was saying, wow, what do I love so much that I would keep failing and just keep trying for it? And I
Mhm.
didn't have anything. I was like, just kind of like, I was working, I had been in banking for years and worked, climbed the ladder there, was in management in banking. And then I was seeked out by this local company here, and I did grower accounting for them. And I didn't hate my job, but I was like, I'm not passionate about what I'm
Right.
doing. And so I wanted something that lit my soul on fire. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of where Kelsey Teddy Fitness was born. It was very, very low expectation. It was always just like the idea of like a side hustle type thing. And so that was born in 2019. I started coaching just like friends and stuff to kind of get that social proof, get my hands dirty, And then we went to the Rise conference in fall of 2019. And that kind of like really like fired it up for me. It was like, okay, this is what I want. Like business is what I want to get involved in. And that's actually where our podcast was born, was at the Rise conference. Because my husband and I, before I went to the Rise conference, had a conversation, and I said, we had sat down and like mapped out our goals for the next year for 2020. And one of my goals on my 5-year goal plan, 5 to 10 years, was like, I want to start a podcast and I want to like speak at an event. Those were like long term.
Okay.
Well, I think it was after day 2 of the Rise conference.
Mhm.
I called my husband every day after, and I remember right where we were walking to get food. And I was like, I want to start the podcast. And he was like, right now? Like, we just talked about this being, such a long-term goal. And I was like, my heart is just saying to start it. And he was like, okay, I'll start researching microphones and like all of the equipment we'll need and this and that. And so thankfully having a supportive husband was like very helpful. So we started the podcast, launched that in January of 2020. And then my business really started, like I started to take it more serious after the Rise conference. I really started to like talk about it more online and just like look at it less as a hobby, because that's how I feel. And I feel like Rachel talked about that at the
Yeah.
Rise conference. It's like, is your business a hobby or is it a business? Like you need to decide.
Yeah.
That spoke pretty heavily to me because I feel like it was just a hobby. And I was like, okay, I need to take this serious. So I really started to take it more serious in early 2020, hired a business coach. And by like spring of 2020, it really took off and, has just kind of blossomed from there. So that's kind of how it started.
I had no idea that you weren't really doing it even, half the time when we met each other at the Rise conference. And then,
Mhm.
we switched social media handles and whatever. And so, I mean, I had no idea that was like kind of the beginning of it. That's so
Yeah.
crazy. And you have, you've exploded. It's been not even 3 years, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's grown quite a bit. I think nobody's more shocked than me
Okay.
because it just like I said, it wasn't really started with the idea of like what it has become now with Empowered Through Fitness, where, we've helped hundreds of women and, and men. We've helped probably, a handful of men as well, but primarily women. And I think it's just like truly finding your passion. And when it's your passion, I just think that it works differently, and everybody has to find that for themselves. And I truly did it from a good place of like wanting to help people. And I think people were really attracted to that authenticity and the vulnerability. And it's just grown and grown, like as far as like marketing and stuff like that, majority of our clients come from client referrals. And, I think the podcast helps. I think educating, putting out a ton of free content and everything to that effect has obviously helped. There's been a lot of contributing factors, but now, this last year in 2021, I hired my first employee. I hired a virtual assistant to help me. And then this year I hired 2 coaches to work with me. And right now it's just Coach Brittany and I. I'll be looking to hire another coach eventually, probably later this year, but it's just growing and I can't believe what it is. Like you said, it did happen so quickly. I actually left my full-time job in last July 2021, because it just got to the point, honestly, where I was making more in my side hustle than I was in my full-time position. And so again, kind of going back to having a supportive husband, he was like, look, you can't do this forever. You're running a full-time business and working full-time. You need to choose, And so it was just very clear where my passion was. And so I took the very scary leap into, just being a business owner, and it's thankfully paid off and has only grown since then. And it's been so exciting, and now kind of starting another business, so it's been
Well,
amazing.
and you did it at such a perfect time because the pandemic hit,
Mhm.
right at the beginning, spring of 2020. So
Yeah.
not that that's what did it, but I mean, you just did it. Like you got in there and just committed. And that's one thing that I've been struggling with, is kind of the imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
Um, but then also, there's a lot of excuses. Like we're still in our apartment, and so, finding, like you hear I don't know if you can hear the lawn mowing that's happening outside my apartment right
No,
now.
I can't.
Okay, good. um, but trying to find, and right now, two of my kids happen to be at school, and then the baby, my husband is in a meeting, but he's holding her while she's sleeping. So, being able to, I don't have my own office, my own like room to have that. Doing workouts have to be in my living room, which is where all the kids' toys are, and it's like never. And so there's always, I'm like, once we get to the new house, which we were supposed to already be in, I'll have my own fitness studio, and it'll be so different. So then it's just like, well, then I had the baby, and I was pregnant, and then postpartum, and there's physically I can't do the things that I could before, because I'm still working. I mean, she's only 9.5 months. And
Yeah.
so, my third C-section, and still trying to build my core back up. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And and I got so much out of the conference, but I also kind of then went home and came up with kind of all these excuses of why that wasn't the right time. And you totally were like, now's the time.
Oh man, I'll tell you, if I could do anything, because I still feel like I drug my feet. And when you hear the story, you're like, where did you drag your feet? But I was like,
Mhm.
I've drug my feet on different things in my business that when I've done them, I'm like, wow, I should have done that sooner. So I feel like you'll always have those obstacles and create those excuses, and you'll always feel some level of imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
because I'll tell you, I felt it, I got over it, and then I started to feel it again. And now I'm feeling it again because I've hired employees and more employees. And, it's just, new levels bring new devils. You're always going, if you're growing, you're always going to feel some low level imposter syndrome. The best thing that you can do is just take messy action to get past it, because
Mhm.
when you're moving and you're busy with all of these things, you don't have time to dwell on it. Yeah, you'll have
Mhm.
moments of it where it feels overwhelming, or you feel, oh my gosh, can I really do this? But just keep moving forward, and I'll tell you, you get past it, because that's the only way. I've had it so many times, but I feel like that just comes with the life of being a business owner. It's overwhelming. Nobody's there to tell you what to do, how to do it. You're
Mhm.
just kind of figuring things out as you go. Like literally driving down the road and being like, should we turn here? Okay, yeah, let's turn here. And that's
Hope
how
for the
it's been the entire
best.
time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that's how it is. And man, if I could tell, some of my friends are starting businesses right now, and what I tell them is like, the only thing you'll regret is not getting started sooner, not
Mhm.
just doing the things, because I'll tell you, you just feel this way the whole time, but nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to come and do it for you.
Mhm.
And that's the thing that I feel like, and now, especially after building a successful business, I have a couple other girlfriends who already have established businesses. And something that we've talked about is like, it's like a tattoo. Once you get one, you have all these ideas. And once you've proven to yourself that you can do it, it's like, okay, what other businesses can I build? And that's kind of where I'm stepping into, the self-development conference. And
Yeah.
I've started dabbling a little bit in business coaching now, and things like that. And it's such an exciting thrill, but you'll always feel that way.
Mhm.
You do. You always feel that way. And man, like you, all the excuses I did too. I had them. Our old house, like I had a desk in our room that was
Mhm.
tiny in the corner. Like literally my back would hurt from doing check-ins at that little desk, because I was like hunkered down in this little corner in a terrible chair. I should have at least bought myself like a good chair.
Yeah.
And then I would do them in my living room, like during the pandemic. I did. So for my online fitness coaching, I don't do workouts with people or anything. I actually have an app that we load them all into. And so I don't do live workouts, but I did them through the pandemic just to for
Yep.
free for the
Yeah.
community. I was like, hey, come work out with us. We're all, all the gyms are closed. And I did those in my living room. And it was like, sorry guys, my kids would walk in the background. My dog was like
Same.
trying to like chew on my arm while we're doing push-ups, and but it's like people like to see that. People love to see, like an underdog, or see you overcoming those obstacles and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yes.
And so I just tell people, like, go with the flow. Like, I feel like we feel like it has to fit in this box and look a certain way, and we have this vision. It doesn't happen like that.
Mhm.
If it
Yeah.
did, oh man, things would look so different, but it doesn't. So just do it. Just do
Yeah.
it.
Well, and my podcast has actually been kind of my first step, because I have, 25, and I'm sure you as well, like 25 ideas of, oh my goodness, I want to send a weekly newsletter with, some recipes or some health books. I'm also working on a cookbook. I want to do a podcast. I want to do live group workouts. I want to do, individual. Do I want to do it in person? Do I not? Do I want to do groups like there's all these things. I get so overwhelmed, so then I do nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
And then it was like,
Yep.
I love talking and sharing information. I mean, that's kind of where it started for me, was that after my second, and I was a gymnast for 13, 14 years. Then I was a gymnastics coach for 17. So it was like definitely a part of my life in that way, but not working out at a gym. And then I got into it when my second one was a year old, and she's 5 now. So she was a year old, and a gym opened up right by us. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the heavens Jesus was like, it is your time, girl. And I was like, yes. And so that, as far as like the fitness and exercise part of health and fitness, because I was always in team sports. And so then I didn't know how to like transfer that into like fitness at a gym, and and incorporating into our family to be like healthy lifestyle, thing like that. And then that's when I was like, they had family group classes, and so one of the trainers would lead that every Saturday morning. So we'd go with our kids, and I'm like, I could do this. Yeah. And I'd never thought about being a trainer ever in my life. I went to school to become an elementary school teacher. I did that for 2 years. And then I've had other, kind of jobs along the way and stuff. But I was like, I think I could do this. And then the owner, who had just opened the gym, was like, hey, I don't know if you've thought about this, if you're open to it, but I would love to hire you. And I was like, I hadn't told my mom, I tell her everything, or my husband, I tell him everything. Like between the two of them, I'll forget who I told what. And then I'm saying something. My husband's like, wait, what? I'm like, oh, maybe that was my mom. And then I'll do it like, because I tell them both everything. And I had not mentioned it to a soul, because I'm always like, I think I want to do this. I think I want to do this. And I get so excited about things, and I'm like, wah, wah. And so I hadn't mentioned it. And I get this message from him, and I'm just like, yes, I do. And so then I was working at a gym, and it was during the pandemic when I was doing online group classes, because we had group training at the gym, which I coached. So I was like, you know what, during the pandemic, like 8 o'clock every morning, Monday through Friday, we're doing a workout together. And we did it via Zoom. So I'm having to work out with them. And so I had to borrow some equipment from the gym, because I didn't really have a lot of, at my house to do those things. And that's when I was like, I think this is what I want to be doing. Like, I really do. But working at that gym, I couldn't pursue my own fitness business. So that was kind of one of the biggest obstacles at the time, because I'm like, I can't quit that job, start this without an income right off the bat. And then I got pregnant with my third, and I did not have maternity leave. Like they offered 12 weeks, but not paid. But I also knew I wanted to breastfeed her full time, and I wasn't gonna be able to go back to work and take her with me. That was gonna be enough hours to make it financially work for us, for our family, and worth it. Like driving a half an hour there and only being able to work 3 hours, which is like either 3 classes or 6 clients, and like it just wasn't gonna be doable. And so I went back to work for my dad, and now I'm like, okay, now I can start working on it. But then you
Yeah.
have a 9-month-old, and then I have a 5 and 7-year-old, and but I'm
Yep.
like, the podcast I can do. And so that's the
Yeah.
one thing I've like, I've been doing weekly and stuck with that. And, but yeah, it was, when I couldn't go and work out at the gym because my second child nursed every 1 to 2 hours. Like I couldn't even go to the grocery store without her. Yeah. And she would come with me. We'd go shopping, get back in the car, I'd nurse her, then we'd go home.
Oh,
And so I was like, okay, well, if I don't have a gym membership, because I can't go because of her, I can't work out. And then at home, I need a full gym to do anything. And then when I found sliders and mini bands, and I was like, oh my gosh, you can do a full body workout with these things. And
yep.
meal planning and prepping, it was like so overwhelming. And then I found a way to do that. And I was like, if I would have known then what I know now, like I could have had that whole year where I was doing nothing postpartum with my second one and been working out and feeling better the entire time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't be the only one, that
Yep.
feels like this.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And it has those excuses. And so it's like, and even as a trainer, like I go to bar classes because I want somebody else to tell me what to do. Like, I don't want to think about it. Tell me what to do and I'm doing it,
Yeah. Yeah. I've had online fitness coaches for myself because I feel like if I'm going to ask other people to invest in me and their health, I need to also do the same. And then I also
there you
have
go.
a in-person kickboxing coach that I see once a week too. So I'm like, I'm with you. I'm like, even trainers need trainers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And okay, so tell me kind of that first, let's see, would have been your first year and a half before you moved on and went to Empowered.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what did Kelsey Teddy Fitness look like in that first year for you?
So in the first year, in 2019 to early 2020, it was pretty pretty small. Like I said, I had some just of my friends that I was coaching, and then I took on a handful of people. I probably had like 10 to 15 clients. And then I hired my first business coach in like April of 2020, I believe it was. And then they really, I invested like over $7,000 in a business coach. And they helped me like get my systems in place. They helped me like really figure out my vision, figure out, okay, here you are, is where you want to go. Like, this is what you need to do to get there. And just like health and fitness, like hiring a trainer, it was the accountability, it was the education that I needed, it was the support. And so I was able to grow so much in that spring to early summer. And I was able to get up to about 25 clients. I was still working part-time, on my business. Well, part-time, but it was like very full-time. And then, so that took me through. And then early 2021, I hired another business coach just to get another pair of eyes on my business. And at that point, he was like, why are you not full-time in this and quitting your job? And he kept saying that to me. And I just was still in denial that it was kind of possible.
Right.
At that point. And so I was like, oh, because like, I just still want to work full time, I don't mind my job. And for me, it was more like the stability, it was very scary for me. Armando was still, kind of trying to figure out the firefighting where he would end up.
Okay.
And so I was the, consistent income for the house. And so it was like, okay, we can't both be doing risky jobs here. And so
Yes.
we have a family to support. And so I feel like that really held me back. But then again, this coach just kept saying like, you could be making a lot more money, if you just quit your full-time job and devoted that time to your business. And so again, finally in July, I, was like, okay, I'm going to take this full time, and went full time, filled up my client roster, worked my way up to about 45 clients. that definitely is a lot. I probably want to sit more about 30. So
Okay.
that's why I actually hired coaches. We just transitioned actually to Empowered Through Fitness earlier this year.
Mhm.
When I hired those coaches, my whole vision was I want women to work with me who also, like, I want them to feel like this is their baby too.
Mhm.
Though this is, I'm the CEO of this business, I want them to feel like they're a part of it, like they
Mhm.
get a decision. I want them to also want
Be
to
empowered.
contribute. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wanna empower my employees,
Right.
exactly. And so that's where I was like, "Okay, we're gonna change the name," because Kelsey Teddy Fitness, while it's great, it's, like, not, their baby too, and so that's
Right.
where we transitioned earlier this year to Empowered Through Fitness,
Mhm.
and, we're moving and grooving, thriving, and, filling up more and more, and that's the whole idea. My kind of what made me finally decide to hire was, okay, what's my vision? And my vision was I want to help as many women as possible
Mhm.
to feel their best, to be confident, to not be miserable in their bodies anymore, empowering women through education and just allowing them to step back into their power. And when I thought of that, it was like, you can do it alone, but the touch is going to be much less. So why not do it with others? And
Yeah.
so that was kind of, there's this quote that talks about, it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so that kind of just kept replaying in my mind. And so I was like, okay, it's time to hire some girls who have the same vision as me and want to do the same thing, and their values align with mine. And so that's kind of what got us to where we are now. And now we're working on so many amazing projects and different things, like the email list. We just launched ours
Okay.
last month, and we do live cooking classes and just a bunch of different free resources and stuff like that for people. We created like a hot girl summer guide is what we call it. And so we're just creating a lot of free things for people to truly help women, because we
Mhm.
all started there with the lack of confidence, not knowing how to do it, where to turn, all of that. And so we're just trying to help one woman at a time.
Yes. And I want to point out too that, like I said, I didn't know that you just started doing this full time less than a year ago.
Mhm.
And the reason I didn't know that you had another job was because you showed up every day and offered
Mhm.
so much content that it appeared that, I mean, well, and you'll probably say, well, yeah, worked way too many hours. But I mean, right? Like creating all of that content and putting it out there consistently, which is also kind of one of my downfalls as well, is, creating the content and having stuff like every day. So I'm like, oh, here's another cute picture of my kid.
Yeah.
But the podcast once a week, I can stick with. But you clearly were doing it, and you were putting in the time and effort to where, again, it appeared to me that that's like what you were doing full time. Um, because you just made a decision, you drew your line in the sand, and you were like, I'm going for it.
Yeah, I knew that consistency, just like anything, with health and fitness, with building a business, it's
Mhm.
all in consistency, getting in the reps, doing the work. I was working so much. It was rough for a while.
Yeah.
I was spread pretty thin.
Mhm.
And even for a while, my husband actually lived somewhere else
That's
for
right.
majority of the week. So I was also kind of like single momming, working full time, running a business, well, starting and running a business full
Yes.
time, doing the podcast, and as you know, because you also create content and understand, it's not easy. It was so much work, but I just kept telling myself, this is temporary, and how bad do you want it? And
Yeah.
so that just forced me to show up every day, talking on stories, educating, doing the Zooms through the, pandemic. I was
Mhm.
getting up early, doing those before work, going to work, doing check-ins on my lunch, coming home, doing check-ins in the evening, literally doing check-ins and like discovery calls with potential clients from my car with my laptop at my son's baseball practice,
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it was like, I just kind of like did what I had to make it work. The content
Mhm.
creation is a lot. It's so much work. It's a lot for people that don't create content. It's so much work.
Mhm.
But it was so tough, man. It was really tough. I mean, it's still tough even, you know, after I quit my full-time job, now I'm like, okay, here I thought I'm going to free up so much time, but you just learn to fill that time
Yep.
with other things because you have these ideas, like you already mentioned,
Yeah.
like all these ideas and things that you want to do. And so it's like, and that's the hard part of being a business owner is like finding that balance for yourself. And that's again where kind of like hiring some of my business coaches has helped because they've really like forced me to like pull back and like, hey, you have to live too.
Mhm.
You've got to like create a little bit of a separation in your business and like draw the line. But it was very much so like, okay, how bad do you want this? And like there is a season to grind and grow.
Mhm.
And then, there'll be a season where you get to relax a little bit. And, I still feel like I'm maybe a little bit in that grind and grow season just because I just hired. But I do see, on the horizon, like being able
Mhm.
to pull back a little bit more. But it was tough, but I'll tell you, my business hit 6 figures last year and I only worked full time in my business for half the year. And so it's possible. Like you
Yeah.
just really have to be willing to put in the time and
Mhm.
decide, okay, how bad do I want this? And like I
Yeah.
said, it got ugly for a while, but it's definitely worth it now. And
Mm.
hopefully it'll be like, I'll be able to step back and, do a little bit more of the CEO role versus like being, so in my business. But, I guess this is just the season. There's a
Yeah.
season for it.
Now, so are you working full-time hours doing your
I
business?
I am. I work Monday through like I have a pretty like set schedule Monday through Thursday that I work. Fridays I try to leave open for calls with clients, calls with potential clients. That's usually when my husband and I record podcasts. So there's a lot of like content creation. I try to leave like a lot of my creative work on Fridays
Mm.
for that, like just so I can like really zone into like creativity. But I still end up working and I still do some on the weekends, but having the flexibility, like this week I'm taking off to Hawaii on Thursday and I'll get to work from the plane, and so it's
Awesome.
like it's really nice, but I definitely still work very full time in my business. But the idea is hopefully eventually to scale it back to like a regular 40-hour work week.
Yes.
But right now we're still definitely over that 40 hours a week.
Okay. Okay. Um, so what would you say is, so I'm going to transition more back into like your business versus the growth of it. So what do you feel like is, the top, the, the main or the top 2 or 3 things, that people struggle with, and that's why they come to you?
With health and fitness,
Hmm.
I would say understanding what to do next.
Okay.
A lot of women have tried the fad diets
Hmm.
and they end up losing some weight, having some success, and then putting it all back on. And they're like, okay, I don't even know what I did wrong. And
Hmm.
so I think what kind of brings women is a lot of the desperation, the lack of confidence, all of those things. And so we're able to, be the guide, be the support, be the accountability. We have a lot of different things in place within our program that, educate and allow women to feel really empowered to know how to do what they're doing. Our whole goal, one of my first fitness coaches that I hired, it was um, kind of like just do as I tell you to
Mhm.
type program, and I didn't know any different way. So I just followed it. I got to the dream goal weight that I wanted, but I was so unhappy and I didn't know
Mhm.
how I got there. I just got there by doing what she told me to do. I
Right.
didn't know or understand anything. And so that experience kind of helped me like figure out and decide, okay, what do I want my business to look like? And I wanted my business to look like, what do I wish I would have had when I went through this process myself? And so that's kind of how like the foundation that we've built is we want to like women can come in if they want us to tell them, we'll tell you what to do, we'll show you how to do it, we'll support you through it, we'll create the accountability. But our program, very much so, you can get so much out of it because we provide so many resources and education. And we've actually been, this has not launched to our clients yet. It's going to launch
Okay.
next week, but we have worked on like a client portal. So clients are going to be able to go in, watch videos, have resources on, different topics like mindset, nutrition 101, overcoming the scale, book recommendation, guides that we've built, travel tips. There's just going to be a whole kind of like platform that they have access to that they can go to for education. So we provide a ton of things that just really can speak to whatever level somebody's at because, some women have lost weight and put it back on. Some women have never dieted. Some women feel so overwhelmed they don't even know where to start. And so our program really speaks to that because it's very customized one-on-one coaching for whatever somebody needs.
Mhm.
But like I mentioned, I really think that like what brings people in and the number one struggle is like feeling like, what do I even do? Where do I turn?
Yes.
There's so much information out there
Yep.
that it's hard to decipher like, okay, what's right for me though? And
Mhm.
so we really help women figure out a plan that's sustainable for them that can help them reach their specific goals. And we have a
Mhm.
ton of different things in place that help them do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you focus on and I don't know how you focus on fitness and not the nutrition side as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
My boss at the gym where I worked would say, you can't outrun a bad diet.
100%. Mhm.
And so when I first started, it was like my diet stayed the same, and I was working out like 4 to 5 times a week. And then I was just like, okay, my numbers are changing, but like I really want it. And he was like, so are you ready to talk about your diet? Are you ready to talk about? And I'm like, I probably should.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to, not do that. But I love that it's customized for each person, because so many things out there is just like one size fits all, and that's not reality.
No, those programs get, honestly, those programs are probably one of the biggest driving forces in our business because women will go do those very vanilla plans like Noom or Optivia or whatever. And it just kind of wreaks havoc on their metabolism.
Mhm.
They, have some success and then they're done with the program and they put all the weight back on plus some. And then they get to the point where they're like, well, why isn't this working anymore? And they can't do a vanilla plan because their body isn't going to respond. And so they have to take more of a customized approach. And that's kind of where we step in and we will not get women results at any cost. I have definitely turned away clients and I'm sure clients have not hired me because I've had that hard conversation of like, hey, I'm not going to get you results at the expense of your health. Like this is a sustainable plan
Mhm.
that is we're going to do things right. And if you're just looking to get fast results, this is not the program for you.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
So what
nutrition
is
is very big.
yes, what's a typical timeline that you like? Do you have a 6 week program or like an 8 week boot camp, or like how do you start people, or is it completely individualized?
It's completely individualized. The minimum that we bring somebody into our program is 6 months because, again, we are looking to do a sustainable plan and that takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time for us to figure out where you're at. it takes time for us to guide you, and for the client to really feel like, oh, okay, now I can do. We Health and fitness is very similar to business. It's very overwhelming.
Mhm.
It feels like it's a lot all at once, especially when you're doing things right. And so when clients come in, we set a very realistic standard of, this is going to take a little bit of time to get things figured out for you to feel confident, and then for us to start getting results. This is not a lose weight, get fit quick program. This is like the real deal. And so 6 months is our minimum, but honestly, like, we've had some clients, like I have a couple clients who have been with me for 2.5 years because they love the accountability. They
Right.
love, and it happens in seasons. Like, you can't diet forever. They have not been dieting for 2.5 years.
Mhm.
It happens in seasons. They're looking to do it right. We do the nutrition side of things. We offer workouts. We upload those workouts into our app that we have, our Empowered Through Fitness app. They have the accountability of weekly check-ins. They have team meetings with us. They have a community that they can reach out to. Like, we've just created a really strong community within all of our clients. They are like all friends. Like, the other day, a client texted me, another client took her a gift. Like, it's just like, really, we've built like almost like a cult. It's like a cult. I'll just say it. It's it's crazy because, I think something that women really feel that they're missing is support. Dieting and being uncomfortable in your body is hard. You feel very alone, and building this community has helped those people. And so they've just formed really strong bonds. And honestly, like, a lot of prior clients even say, like, wow, I feel like this is a family. And it is, like, it's a family. So it's more than just like a group fitness program or a, tell me what to do and I'll do it program. It's like, you really build a bond, and especially like the coach to client bond is very, very strong as well. And we work with, it's more than just health and fitness. Like, we work on a lot of mindset stuff because, if you're somebody who tends to, this is very common, is like have an all or nothing mindset, or you are somebody who tends to self-sabotage once things start going really well. Those are all things that are very common. And so we work very one-on-one with clients to overcome that, find a plan that fits for them, and really overcome all of those obstacles that we run into. And that kind of stuff takes time. So it's definitely longer. We are going to, in the fall, do some type of challenge that will be probably a 6-week challenge, like a Kickstarter challenge or something. We are going to start doing some of those, but as of now, our program is all one-on-one coaching.
Okay. That's awesome. Wow. So what would be like the one takeaway that you want people to know about starting a business? And then also, what is one thing they can start in their health and fitness today that to help them, just jumpstart and then, go, okay, I've started this, now I'm ready for a coach. Like, because some people aren't.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
that's why you said, like, sometimes I turn people away because I don't want to just take your money, take your
No.
money. And I'm the same way. That's how, I was at, when I was training at the gym too, is that like, I'm not just gonna go, yeah, keep giving me your money, and then you're not seeing any results because you're not committed.
Yeah, exactly. I tell people, it's like, you have to be ready for this, because I could give you the best plan, but you still have to execute that plan. So, the work, people think that the work comes from hiring the coach. That's actually where the work starts. That's
That's the
not where
easy
it ends.
part.
So for my business tip, if somebody is looking to start a business, just take messy action. You're not going to know how to do all the things. You just figure it out as you go, and you're going to make mistakes. That's definitely part of it. And unfortunately, that's where you learn the biggest lessons that
Yeah.
honestly help you when you're trying to level up your business. Because I've learned hard lessons in the beginning that now I'm like, oh my gosh, thank the Lord himself I learned it then versus now, because now that would have been a very expensive mistake, things
Yes.
like that. And so just taking messy action, because it's not going to be perfect. If you feel 60%, move on it. Go, run with it. Just do it. So that's my
Yeah,
business tip.
I need to hear that too and remind myself of that, because I am very much a perfectionist. And so I
Yeah.
want I want to feel like I know every answer to every question, and I want everything to be perfect and know exactly how it's going to look before I do
Yeah.
anything. So that's my kind of self-sabotaging is, it has to be perfect the first time. And I'm like, no, it doesn't.
No,
And I've
it
learned that through
doesn't.
my podcast. I mean, my podcast gets better, each week, each time that I do it versus like my first one,
Yeah.
my first few even. And so
Yeah.
that's a good one for sure. Just do it. Do it messy. I love that.
Messy action. It cracks me up listening to some of our first podcast episodes, because now we're like, I think we're in like the 130 episodes or
Wow, that's
something.
awesome.
And I'm like, I listened to like just a blurb of one of the first ones not long ago, and I was like, wow, we have come so far.
Yeah.
We have really come so far.
Yes.
But, you wouldn't have the episodes that we have now if we wouldn't have
Right.
started with those,
Mhm.
So,
Well, and if you were here
fitness.
today where you were there, then you haven't grown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And man, growth, everybody who is where you want to be has been where you are.
Mhm.
And I feel like we
That's
really
good.
forget that. We
Mhm.
really forget that everybody starts somewhere, because we're just comparing to like, oh, I want that. But it's like, yeah, but that didn't happen overnight. They went through this process too. And I feel like it's just, you have to pay the dues
Yes.
to, be able to get there.
Yeah.
And so it's tough, but it's always worth it, because
Mhm.
like I said, you learn lessons along the way that you have to learn those
Yes.
the way that you do, so that it helps you at the levels that you're headed for.
Yeah.
I fully believe that all of those things happen for a reason and are
Mhm.
just necessary for our growth.
Yeah. I love that. Okay,
Um,
so health and fitness, what could be something that some people could do today? They're listening to this like, okay, that just lit a fire under me to start something.
I really think that something that is highly underrated is simple movement, walking. People
Mhm.
think, so obviously nutrition is where you're going to get 80% of your results, but nutrition also is the harder of the two.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
so what I tell people is start small.
Mhm.
When you feel that you have started small enough, start even smaller, because you need to learn to master the basics before everybody wants like the secret sauce or the secret
Yes.
pill, or what's the secret? The secret is doing the basics and
Yeah.
getting really good at those, because those get you the results. So
Mhm.
I would say for somebody who is like new and wanting to start out, just start with walking, just
Mhm.
walking, and start with a small commitment. Maybe you're not looking to hit 10,000 steps a day, but what if instead you say, okay, I'm going to try to walk a mile 3 times this week. And that's
Mhm.
where I'm going to start. Next week, I'll walk 1.25 miles 3 days. And then the next week, I'll walk a mile and a half 3 days. And you'll start to feel, and the reason that I say go on walks and get movement in is, one, our bodies feel better that way. You'll probably start to sleep better. Getting outside and getting like
Mhm.
fresh air, sunlight, all of that, that's good for your mental health. And when we
Mhm.
start to feel better mentally, we'll be able
Mhm.
to take on more, like taking on making simple swaps in our nutrition.
Mhm.
Swapping, if you're addicted to Pepsi, maybe you swap out one for a diet Pepsi. And
Mhm.
then next week, you swap out one for a diet Pepsi and one for a glass of water,
Yeah.
and just really build on it. And so, starting with the basics, get outside, move your body, start
Mhm.
small, start really
Yeah.
small, because the nutrition side of things is hard. And food is like an addiction for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And so you can't just cut and dry, like Sunday, I'm eating like a trash panda. Monday,
Mhm.
I am like the picture of health.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. It starts with simple swaps. But I really think that starting maybe with just movement and walking
Okay.
for somebody who's like just looking to get started, start on that side of things. Don't tell yourself you're going to go to the gym 5 days a week at 5 in the morning. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
I do morning workouts. I've been doing this for years and it's still hard. So don't be unrealistic with your expectations, because that's where you fall into the all or nothing mindset. You miss one workout and you're like, oh, okay, what's the
Yeah.
point? Why am I trying?
Yeah.
Start
Don't set
with
yourself
walking.
up for failure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just start with walking. Just get outside
Yeah.
and walk, and then you'll start to feel
Okay.
better. And, then walking won't seem like such a chore. Then you might feel like getting a workout in, and then maybe you'll make a better choice at lunch,
Yes.
food wise. And those things compound on themselves. One decision, you're not going to get healthy from one salad, just like you won't get, completely revert with one burger,
Yeah. So good. Well, thank you so much. I could continue talking to you for hours.
Yes.
But I got to get my kids. I know you have a full day ahead of you still, I'm sure.
Yes.
I'd love to have you back sometime to do another one of these, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And where can people find you to
You can
follow
find
you?
me I'm sorry?
Yeah, where can people find you so they can follow you?
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram at Kelsey, Kelsey_Teddy, TEDDI. That is my Instagram handle. And then in my bio, you can find our podcast. You can find our free Facebook community where we go and do live trainings. And then you'll find like our Empowered Through Fitness page linked on my page and everything. So that's probably the easiest way.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. So guys, go out, subscribe to her podcast, start following her, because if nothing else, you're going to get motivation from her for sure.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I love everything that you offer, and I'm super excited to see where this goes for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Okay.